there's been a lot of posts and stuff on social media dealing with, stating that we're dealing with taxpayer, what we're doing with taxpayer dollars here. And because those posts are starting to get some comments and feedback, I wanted to take some time to address that. One of the posts wanted to make sure that we were being transparent, and so I wanted to make sure to allow the residents of ARCOLA to know exactly what we're doing here in the city of ARCOLA. Come back on. I don't get this on. Where is it? Okay. So I just did for basically the first 2 pages of that. I just basically did a outline of what we have passed in the city council since I've been in office, since June of 2024. If you actually go on city council, on the City of Arcola's website, you can go to all the city council meetings and see the minutes and see what we've already expended funds on. So just so you'll be clear, so we can let you know exactly what we're doing with taxpayer dollars. I'd like to go to the next page. One of the posts that came up, and unfortunately, all these posts are coming from the former mayor. And I think it's important for me to take the time to address this because somebody who's been in a leadership position for 6 years and who's operating a page called ARCOLA Citizens, this may come across as very credible, and I want taxpayers to realize that we are not misappropriating funds, we are not engaged in corruption, we are not engaged in stealing taxpayer dollars. And as you see, former Mayor Burton, he talks about we'd rather spend our taxpayer dollars on lawyers. Unfortunately, we are having to spend a lot of extra taxpayer dollars on attorney fees and stuff because we're having to do a lot of redressing of issues from the past administration that should have already been addressed or maybe shouldn't have occurred even in the first place. So as I go through this, I will definitely kind of illustrate that point. And as you see here, he says they need to know where the tax dollars are being spent, where and why, and to make sure that we have transparency. This particular presentation is aimed at giving him the transparency that he wants. So on the next slide, he tells, first of all, he's maligned my character since I've been in, since I actually started running. He's slandered my name, he's done the same to this council and talked about what we are doing up here. And that's okay. You know what? That's what they say is politics, right? So I get it. And for a year, I have been getting it, and I have been just kind of shrugging it off. But when you start saying this too many times, like I said, and residents start believing it, I think we need to take some time to address it. He said that all I've ever done really is run a summer program to line my pockets using taxpayer money and not disclosing how the money is spent. This is very direct and deliberate, straight up untruth. You know, being dishonest, because everything that we ever did here in the city of Arcola, not only did we stand up and give reports every year, we did presentations every year. We have every receipt that we ever spent the city of Arcola's money on was presented to this council. And so every one of those, so this stuff is very deliberate. As you see, Mayor, at the time, Mayor Burton was the one who came to me and asked me to run the summer program because he had been told that I've been running programs for kids for many, many years. As you see this letter that came from Mayor Burton in 2021, he's highlighting how, we've done such a great job with such success of the programs and all that stuff, and how they're going to continue to support the program. The next letter comes in 2023 saying the same thing, and talking about how they're going to allow us to continue the operations here in the City Hall and how much it has helped kids. If you see for the next 4 pages, every single year from September 2021, you'll see these are regular City Council minutes where we stood up here and given reports of what we did with taxpayers' money that he allocated to the city, to our nonprofit organization at the time. So, and if you go through one, it's 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. Every single year we've done that. This is our 5th year This summer will be our 5th year providing these services to these kids. And I'm not going to allow these types of just mischaracterization of what we've been doing to keep us from actually continuing this program and providing the service to our residents. Then he posts one, say, what a crooked administration going on now, saying that $20,000 was given to us, somebody on the council, for record services. I've talked to a couple of people from the record services, and they're like, well, why would we give y'all $20,000? I mean, we trying to make money. And which does not make sense at all, but to go out and, you know, like I say, put this out here and post this, you know, what I'm going to show you as we go through this presentation, that oftentimes he has a habit of accusing me and or this council of doing the very things that I will show that he's been doing while he's been in office. And listen, I really hate to expend my time doing this, but this is way too important. Because the accusations that he's leveling and at every single day he's posting stuff, that it just gets to a point in time, at some point, I mean, it's like, come on, we got to do something different. He says $65,000 of taxpayer dollars are missing, and no one wants to say what happened to it. Stay tuned. Well, we told him he know what happened to it. He did open records request asking for the check that we spent the money on. And it was money spent on the attorney fees for a case for the 3 council members who lodged it against the city of against the mayor, actually, in what he was doing. And so, listen, he got so invested in this. He had about 15 of his friends also submitting the same open records request for this $62,000 check that we had paid to the attorneys, and he sent it to. And he sent it to the Fort Bend County DA's office and filed a complaint for spending the money. The DA's office came back and said, we found nothing here. And so that was dismissed. One of the ones that I thought was so, you know, just really lacked any tact from somebody in leadership. He says, it's official now, Mayor Williams has now shut the city down for future development by giving all the water and sewer connections to one developer, which means if you're Black, Hispanic, or Indian and have property in the city of ARCOLA, you won't get services. So he goes on to call me a modern day Uncle Tom and call me a house N-word. I can't recall since the 70s actually hearing somebody say that word to me, but from someone who sat in this chair and talking about a resident of the city, I think it just shows lack of class, and it just really has no place. But to set the record straight, it was actually Fred Burton who is the reason why the city right now today has very limited capacity. These projects, that when we do these expansions on these projects, they take 2, sometimes 3 years to come into actual fruition. So if he had participated, you heard the engineer say earlier that the city didn't participate in the last expansion, which was in 2023. And if you look at this, it's dated November 2023, the city decided that it was not going to participate in the expansion. Had he participated in that expansion, we would have the necessary services to date, because it just really recently came online, we would have the services to continue providing adequate utility services to all residents and to new development coming into the city. But he chose not to participate. There was a letter from the Freshwater One's attorney that basically stated that the city notified the district that it would not participate in the new expansion. So the very thing that he's telling people out here that is this current mayor who has not allowing them to have access to services, it was he was the very one that committed those the acts that caused us not to have capacity. So since we've been in here, yes, like I said, we've had lots and lots of unnecessary new expenses that we've had to expend, funds we've had to expend. $19,000 on $20,000 basically on redoing speed bumps. These speed bumps, if anybody who was going through Pinedale Manor, as you can see, where everybody was scraping the bottom of their cars, mine included, they had to be replaced, and we had to have them redone. And there was a number of them, so that's where that cost came from. If you remember, we had this nice big digital sign out in front of the city of Arcola, which the city paid right at almost $50,000 for. Well, because he didn't didn't have the forethought to talk with the engineer, he put the sign in a place where, because they were doing construction out there, it was a place that the sign couldn't be. So they had to spend money to take the sign down. And he had one of his buddies to store the sign, and then it was okay storing the sign until he lost the election. And when he lost the election, then the buddy came knocking on the door saying, hey, we owe all of these thousands of dollars of storage fees. And we were like, where's the contract? That showed that this council approved that there were storage fees that we had to pay. The guy couldn't produce it. But nevertheless, at this point, we don't know where the sign is. Because the gentleman said that it's going to be, we got to pay storage fees, and then it's a $10,000 fee in order to put the sign back up. So we've tried to contact him, he's tried to contact us, and I think we had the last, Justin, our city attorney, was trying to get in touch with them, and they never could connect. And so there's another unnecessary fee. And when we'll get the sign back, this whole $50,000 that was spent on that is down the drain. Then he says, what in the world is going on South Pine Street and 521? They're allowing the poor citizens over there to be drowned out by that development. That development, mind you, was signed off on by Fred Burton. On the day before he was leaving office, he signed off on a permit, that allowed that development to come into play. And it did not have the proper drainage that it needed. And so whenever it would rain, the poor people who live right behind them were just being flooded out. So we actually went over and had fire marshal and chief to put a stop work order to it. It got to the point they kept building, and so what we ended up having to do is get a professional inspecting company to come in here, a contractor to come in, and they too went over, inspected the property, gave them a stop work order, and told them they could not do another thing until they fixed the drainage. They are now fixing the drainage. So it is not this administration who is trying to flood out those people. We are making sure, I'm telling you, we're not allowing any developers to come in here that's going to harm, I don't care how many permits they have and who is signed by, that's going to harm the existing residents that live here and cause harm to their families or their property. The next one, he says, the city of Arcola, led by Mayor Williams, is giving your tax dollars away at the clip of $100 an hour since February for an investigation. Arcola has lots and lots of money. And this is important because, you know, I don't even get all the threads and what people are saying, but you got residents saying, well, what do we need to do? Because they're buying into these things that he's saying and believing it. Now, yeah, I will tell you, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. We do have an investigation going on, and I'll tell you why we have an investigation going on a little bit later. And but in terms of giving away your tax dollars, I'm going to show you how the former mayor literally was giving away tax dollars. In Texas, when you look at when developers come in, there's an impact fee that's charged, and basically what that is, those are charges assessed to fund capital improvements needed and to support the development. Oftentimes we can credit developers because they bring in so much of that infrastructure themselves, and so we can credit those impact fees to them. They also offset the burden that new development placed on our existing city infrastructure lines, right? So those are fees that are paid by developers in order to, help offset, I'm not there yet, help offset those costs. Also, there are utility tap lines. You know, any of y'all who've moved to the city, you got to pay a $2,000 tap fee for water and a $1,750 tap fee for sewer. If you go connect to the city's sewer, water and sewer line. When you come in as a developer, the developer pays those fees. They are due when you get your building, your permit. And sometimes because they're developers, just like we pay $2,000 and $1,750 because the lines for developers may be bigger, sometimes they have to pay even higher costs. So this was from a presentation that was made to the city, the residents of Arcola under Mayor Burton at that time, where he says that impact fees were charged at a rate of $2,676 per water connection and $4,563 per sewer connection. So, if you go to the next page, we had a project, a developer come in with a project that wanted to bring in 217 homes. Just wanted water. And for water alone, those impact fees would have been $580,692. $580,692. The tap fees for the water, and I'm just doing this based on residential costs, right, would have been $434,000 for a total of $1,014,000. And I'll show you later why I put that $75,000 credit, because when they were negotiating an agreement, at one point they said, okay, well we can credit you up to $75,000 for the infrastructure that you're bringing, and so it would have brought it down to $939,692. Oh my God, $939,692, right? That's what it would have been. So in negotiating this agreement, initially the developer was going to have to pay impact fees. They were going to have to pay for infrastructure for water and sewer lines. They were going to have to pay for all the fees associated with lawyers and engineers and all of that, right? If you look at a little bit further, you got where the developer was going to pay for the infrastructure of the water and sewer lines. The developer was going to pay for all the pipes for the lift station, for the water meter that was going to go to the property. They were going to pay for the city attorney, all of these different things, and the developer, they were going to get a credit up to $75,000 on their impact fees. At some point, as you see, as late as June 9th, the parties agreed that the developer was going to be solely responsible for all the design and construction costs for the water meter to serve the property. As late as June 11th, they were going to be credited $75,000 toward impact fees, and the developer was going to pay water tap fees equal to the cost for such taps as established by the city. So in other words, they were going to have to pay those tap fees, water tap fees, for all 217 of those homes. Okay? By June 20th, the developer and the property was not going to be subject to any water impact fees or any water tap fees. And in all that time, this agreement was not being brought back and forth before this council. This agreement was signed on June 20th, 2023.
We did say that.
However, don't worry about it. You can say that. However, on June 20th, 2023, if I could bring you the whole list. This is it right here. This is all the changes, the amendments that was made on June 20th, 2023 for that agreement. It was more than 7 different changes on June 20th. June 20th, the day that the meeting was going to occur, that the council was going to vote on that. Any developer coming into the city knows that you cannot, on the day of the meeting, still be making changes to an agreement that the council is supposed to be looking at and trying to approve on that day. No. In fact, when you look at it, the council didn't actually, the agreement that was uploaded into the system wasn't actually uploaded into the date after, on June 21st. So this council didn't even have access to the agreement that was initially signed, eventually signed by Fred Burton on June 20th. Not to mention, I don't know about you all, but I never sign a sheet that just has a signature page on it. I don't do it. I need to have something at the top that says clearly what this document is and what it is that I am signing. But nevertheless, because anything before that, anybody can change and then just slap this on the back end of it, right? So then, of course, the last meeting that Mr. Burton served as mayor here on May 14th, 2024, I remember coming before this council that they wanted y'all to approve $90,000, $90,150 for a water meter to go to that property, and that the city was going to pay for that meter. But the quote that they were looking at was actually, it says tap and inspection fees for $90,150,000. And the city doesn't pay for the tap fees and the inspection fees for developers. So, but let's just say we decided, say that the council decided, okay, well, we're going to even credit that $90,150 toward the impact fees. It still would have been $849,542 that was due to this city for impact fees and tap fees and all of that. So, Burton tried to say that we, in this administration is giving away money. He gave away, if we had allowed the development to continue, he would have given away $849,542 to the developer. And we would have been on the hook for that. The taxpayers of the city of Arcola would have been on the hook for that. But to make matters worse, in this particular project, on the day he's leaving office, he said, please know that today is my last day serving as the mayor of Arcola. We have a scheduled council meeting tonight with your project on the agenda at 6 p.m. I just want to inform you that we, UN City, has a development agreement in place, and I stand by you with respect to this agreement. The climate in the city and the council tells me that they will try to not stand up to the agreement that was passed by the same city council. They, meaning the majority of the members, will try and bring this back to a vote, which I believe will fail. I'm committed to supporting you and your development, even as a witness, if you have to take legal action against the city of Arcola. Please feel free to contact me if you need anything else. Thank you. Now, this is someone who's sitting in this chair who is supposed to be advocating on behalf of the city and the residents of this city. And he just said he will stand against this city with the developer who he just handed over $849,000 that was due to the city. On top of that, if this agreement that he passed, he was so convinced that this council agreed to that, approved that agreement, why would they want to bring it back and then change it up? That tells you right there that there was something not right with this agreement. And so, Fred Burton can post all he wants on his page, but I will tell you, I'm going to stand and I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to defend this council because we're doing some work on behalf of the people, and I thank you all for your commitment toward working on behalf of the residents in this city. And I will stand up and I'll go to bat for you each and every day. Next page. Not only did he give up the money, he didn't reduce, he just gave up the impact fees for that particular project A. He also did it on another project. They said, good morning, Mayor Burton. We appreciate and thank you for reducing our water and wastewater impact and connection fees. Those fees cannot be reduced and or waived without this council's approval. He oftentimes seemed like he was acting and going behind the backs of council and legislating on behalf of this city for what in his own interest. he, he didn't miss anybody out there doing any work in the city without, if they didn't have a permit. He'd be quick to, come and tap you on the shoulder and say you need a permit. But when he came up and he needed a permit, put an application for a permit. The next page. When he approved got his driveway and sidewalk approved, not only did he go ahead and just approve this for himself, but he also didn't pay the permit fee.
No.
And we know that anybody who does not pay a permit fee and is doing work in the city, that fee is double. So, Fred Burton, you still owe the city. And these are the plans. Now, the way we go through it and talking about we got to have all these plans and stuff for all these residents, these are the plans that were submitted for him. So, again, and I tell you, this broke my heart, this next thing. This is from a resident of the city of ARCOLA who talked about how they were being harassed by the mayor. That they and their husband, they had come down here and moved. They were first-time home buyers, and they didn't realize that they needed a permit. And it was a police officer that stopped by and told them so kindly and was very nice to them, told them, "Hey, you need a permit." And they was like, "Okay." Came up here to take care of everything that they need to take care of. Next page. But one of the things that he said to them, this is not Little Mexico. You cannot bring any trailers or any business here, or have a business here. And you cannot have mobile homes. And she said, even though he was so disrespectful and racist, she shut her mouth because she was in the process of becoming a permanent resident and didn't want anything to interfere with her application. He was preying on people he felt was vulnerable, and it just really bugs me. And this is not the only person that has said that, but a lot of people don't want to come forward because they don't know. As you see, there's an election going on, he's running again, and they are afraid of what might happen. She goes on to say, Burton came to our house again, mandate a $500 permit fee to be paid directly to him. Not only was he giving the money away, he was taken from the residents here in the city. He wanted an accounting, I'm giving him an accounting, and I'm being transparent. So perhaps when he was riding around the city, looking at who needed permits or whatever, every time he rode around or whatever, he was charging the city. And over 3.5 years to the tune of $10,000, let me go to the last page, to the tune of $10,949.89 that he was charging for mileage when he was driving to go wherever he needed to go. That's taken from taxpayer dollars. Okay. And this has, I can't say that this is Fred Burton, but it looks just like his other post, but it's anonymous. She's hired her friends and families just to line their pockets with taxpayer dollars. Well, first of all, I haven't hired any of my family. I've told my family, look, yeah, don't even ask me for a job, okay? Because I don't want to give even the appearance of anything. And although, look, I don't think it's anything wrong if you hire, if they are qualified and you're not supervising, I don't think it's necessarily illegal. No. But to put it out as if it's something nefarious that I'm doing, and then, as you see on the next couple pages, he's doing the very same things. Now, this is a proposal. This one and the next page, look, they look exactly alike. It's for the exact same project, which is the painting a maintenance trailer and some containers or whatever. The two exact things on the same exact date. One of them to be done by Dwight E. Burton, and another one is for a different person. So what he did was, I guess somebody must have told him, no, you might not want to put it in your brother's name. Then they did it and put it in somebody else's name, and then they paid it in that person's name. To the tune of $4,875. Again, I'm not saying that is illegal. If he's qualified to do the job, I'm not saying that was illegal. But don't put it out there as if this is something that I'm doing when I haven't. But it's something that you have done. Okay, so this is just showing that he actually did pay that. Okay. Now, on this one, this next one, this was a citation issued from the City of ARCOLA Police Department to Fred Anthony Burton for assault by physical contact. So he had the citation, and I guess he decided to dismiss it and prove it himself. If you look on here, it says the state of Texas versus Burton, Fred Anthony. It says, I, Tremaine Ruiz, complainant, who was the police officer who gave the citation, decided not to, decided not to go further with the charges of assault. But he signs as the complainant. Fred Burton signs as the complainant, not Mr. Ruiz, Officer Ruiz, who was the actual complainant.
Wow.
So he didn't follow the process of how it normally is in dismissing a citation for itself. Again, a benefit to Fred Burton.
Wow.
The other person that was also in it, that also got a citation at the same time that he was engaged with, was a female, and that's all I'll say about that. But that one was also dismissed. Next one. But perhaps the most egregious act of all that I saw coming from that administration. The property next door, it's approximately 4.1 acres of land. The address is 434 McKeever Road. Was purchased by the City of ARCOLA in 2021. At that time, the value of that property was $78,000 for part of it. $78,180. That was the assessed value for being cash. And you can see that the outline of the property up there. Part of it is unusable land, it shows you. And it's just right next door. Now the owners, because there was a little tiny part at the very top up there that was considered commercial, when they got there, the taxes for that particular property, next one, it was valued at totally at $148,611. So okay, so let's say it's $150,000. When they decide to get ready to go out to purchase the property, as you see, the appraisal by National Appraisal Partners, and it was for 434 McKeever Road. The appraisal came back for that residential property. That they did an appraisal based on commercial property. That was a residential space. At $650,000 was the appraisal that came back. But you know what? That wasn't enough for Mayor Burton. He said, well, you can go up or down 10% either way on the appraisal amount. And so he decided, well, $650,000 wasn't enough for it. They actually ended up, these are the properties that were compared, that they used as comparables. And they were all, as you can see, they're commercial property. That wasn't enough for Mayor Burton. He said, and on the audio, and I quote, he's saying, they decided to purchase it for $715,000. He said, well, that's within the legal limit, right? Going up 10%. He was advocating to pay more of the city's tax dollars and a 500% increase in the assessed value for that property. And if you look, if you go back a couple to that to this, the appraisal district thing, even today, y'all, it's still valued at $78,000, assessed at $78,000. And the city paid $715,000 for that, outright.
What's the price be jacking it up when they show it?
So I just want to say, listen, while I was trying to look at all of this stuff, I wanted to find out, look, I need to find the supporting, not yet, not that one yet. I wanted to find the supporting documentation for why some of these actions were taken. So I'm thinking maybe there's a reason. And so I was looking at I wanted to look at the computer. I went to his computer to see if I can find any of these supporting documents. After 6 years, there were 0 documents on that computer. 0. The computer had been wiped clean. So, yes, we have an investigation. There is an investigation. Let me put it like that. There's an investigation. The computer has been turned over. And listen, there needs to be some accounting. He wanted transparency. I'm giving him transparency. I'm giving the city transparency. The day that he left this office, he says that there was $7,079,239.73 funds that city had in its, in its coffers at that time. Yet he's went to the DA's office saying that we're spending all this money and they're spending it on stuff that they shouldn't be spending it on. Well, as of yesterday, we have $8,245,422.83. And yet, despite we have also spent money on things that the residents in this city has asked us to spend monies on. Some of y'all see the little booklets that we have out there. We're showing exactly what we're doing. If you look at the agenda items on our city council meeting, everything exactly what we've been spending money on. There's a lot of money that is spent on every day in the maintenance, and you heard Roland, it appeared, the operator, and Lawrence talk about these lift stations, the wastewater treatment plant, the water plant, the constant maintenance and repairs that we have to make to those. Yeah, some of those things, that were neglected, and that we have to do, because that is safety for the residents of this city. And so I am proud of the work that we have done. I am proud of the funds and the money that we spent on behalf of the citizens here in this city. We are going to continue to meet their needs. As like you said, we're going out for COs so that we can address their drainage issues, so we can address some of the street problems. We have all these issues, and yet he was willing to give away $849,000 of fees that should have come to the city. So, you all listen. This ARCOLA citizens page, it's a private group. It is not a public page for news for citizens who are concerned about road conditions or help that they need or summer programs or whatever their needs are. This is the voice of one person, Fred Burton. If you get on that page and you say something that he doesn't like most all of us up here, well, some of us, are blocked from that page. We cannot even access that page. If we had a concern, we could, as residents of Arcola, we can't get on there. This is his private page that he uses to slander and malign and just misrepresent and mischaracterize what's going on in this city. And you know what? At some point, you just have to fight back to when somebody's constantly trying to bully you. And I will not be bullied. I have never been bullied. I will not be bullied. And so he wanted his transparency and accountability. I hope he got it. And that's all I got. So thank y'all for listening. This is my presentation. This is based on documents that I was able to find.
You can get copies if you
So,
want it, right?
yes. So, and they are documents that are here. So, I'm not going to use conjecture and rumors and put innuendos out there. I deal with facts, and so that's what they are. So be it.